up with the funky bass in your face. New York City, have mercy one time.
Hello. Are we on? Okay. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to, I guess you could say this is the first episode. Um, let's not even call it an episode because, this is, if I were to put it in a word, I would say this is, just me rambling on in the video. Let's just call it that, rambling on in the video. Because even though I did have thoughts of doing like a podcast series, just because my interests change a lot and I might start something and never finish or continue with it, I'm going to go ahead and save myself from saying that this is a podcast series and have you guys wait every other week or a month or whatever the case, and just say that this is like a one-off video of me rambling for I don't know how long, and just me talking about certain stuff that's been on my mind. And basically, this is just an episodic discussion. Let's just call it that. Or just me rambling on for an hour, whatever it may be. And first of all, let me introduce myself. My name is CJ Kid123, and I will be your host for now. I'm by myself, so yeah, I have no cast members or anything like that. This is just me off of Audacity, and me just shooting the shit based off what I'm thinking at the moment. And I wanted to get my thoughts in on certain things, or maybe just one thing, but maybe a couple of other subjects might come up as I talk about, the one subject I want to talk about, and we might talk about that. But for now, let's just go ahead and just discuss, certain things. And, if I sound a little rusty and things get a little awkward or sound a bit off or just boring at some points or just off-putting to you, mind you, this is my first time doing something like this at this length. And, that's all I can really say. I'm not really good on introducing, segments and all that stuff. Like I said, it's just me just saying I want to do it just to see how it goes. And the funny thing about it is that before I did this, I had everything planned out in my head, how I was going to come about it and everything. But I guess what you plan and what you do when you're actually, are doing it are two different things. Because now, none of what I said before is going exactly the way I planned it in my head. So, yeah. Anywho, so let's start. Let's just start with the subject. First of all, I will go and segue into this by saying that I am a huge video game fan, been since I was young, and the genre that not expertise, but the one genre that I find myself to be not even somewhat of an expert, because it's a very deep genre to get into, especially when you play with pros, but that is the fighting game genre. I've been in the fighting game since I was, man, I can't even say, since I was young. And yeah, man, I mean, the first fighting game I probably played was either Street Fighter 2 or Mortal Kombat. I don't really know which one came first, but yeah, it's been like that since I was young. That was my first fighting game, and as I played those two games, I kind of grew, and as I grew, I learned about other fighting games, and then my fighting game knowledge expanded, and it just grew and grew and grew and constantly kept growing until I found out about other fighting games like Tekken, Virtual Fighter, King of Fighters. Um, I don't know what else was out that early that could have been considered fun as far as fighting games go. I mean, a lot of the other stuff that you probably may know, like Guilty Gear and all that stuff, those came later on in the late '90s. By then, I was very diverse in fighting games, so yeah, a lot of it was just those games: Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, Tekken, Virtua Fighter. For the early '90s at least. So a lot of Capcom stuff as well. Capcom was pretty much the company that raised me in fighting games because they had so many games, and not just fighting games, but platformers, so shooters, all that. This was like when Capcom was in its prime in the '90s. So, oh man, I mean, just thinking about it, wow, how time flies. But anyways, let's get on to the topic. First of all, it is January 2nd of 2017. So Happy New Year's to everybody. I hope everybody, wherever you are listening to this, you're safe, you're well, and everything is going good for you. And hopefully, if you're in a hard spot in your life, maybe this podcast can help you get through that hard spot and, I don't know, add some enjoyment to your day, because that's what I want to do. If there's anything that I want this video to bring about, if I don't do another one ever again, it is to, enlighten somebody or just brighten somebody's day, because, not everybody has a good day every day, and there's a lot of people. So, somewhere in the world, every single day, someone's going to have a very just effed up day where they feel like nothing in throughout the whole day is going to make them feel any better, feel good or anything like that. Like they're just gonna feel like crap the whole day based on whatever made them feel like that in the first place. Well, I hope this video somewhat changed that for people, because that's something that I know I would want to look for a video whenever I click on something to get away. Just get away from reality. And with that said, let's get right into the subject. I won't hold you guys off any longer. I mean, it's been already 6 minutes anyway, so yeah, let's start. Well, during the past month, there was a reveal at PlayStation. I think it's PlayStation Experience. I could be wrong, but yeah, one of the announcements was the release or the upcoming release and the working on of Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. Yes, that's right. A new Marvel vs. Capcom is being developed and is currently looking to be released sometime in 2017. Now, when I first heard about the release date, I thought maybe this is too soon, especially for an announcement coming out now. I mean, like, we think back when Street Fighter Cross Tekken was first announced. Ono and the second guy's name, I forgot his name. Oh, damn it. Oh, God, I'm not gonna forgive myself if I don't remember, because I know his name. And out of all the times right now when I'm recording live, I forget. Harada. Ono and Harada said that the game won't be out for about 2 years when that game was announced. So that game had to have been announced in 2010. They didn't see release shelves until about 2012, early 2012. So I thought back to that game and its whole release and everything, and then I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, they showed us the announcement trailer, and they even showed us the release date, which is next year, and here we are. Like, this is the year 2017. And it's just crazy to think that some, like, 8 or 9 months down the line, this game will be released. And the only thing we know about it so far is that, well, let's start with the characters. The characters that have been announced so far are, for the Capcom side, you have Ryu from Street Fighter, of course, staple in any Versus series considering Capcom. Morgan, another staple character that has to do with anything Versus Capcom related. And the one shocker and the surprise inclusion that many fans have been requesting to be in some sort of fighting game or just game in general, and that is Mega Man X. Now, if you're new to, hearing about fighting games or playing fighting games, or you want to find out about this game and you thought clicking this video might give you some insight, well, let me give you insight into why this character is so high in demand and why everybody lost their shit when he appeared on screen. First of all, Mega Man as a character and as a franchise as a whole has been getting dumped on by Capcom as of the last couple of years. I mean, it all started when the creator of Mega Man had difficulties and differences with the higher-ups at Capcom, and I think he went separate ways with them to make Mighty Number 9 to compensate for Capcom not putting out any Mega Man titles or anything related to Mega Man. And thus, for that, basically, ever since then, Mega Man hasn't been seen, and fans have been requesting him. I mean, this dates back to even before Marvel vs. Capcom 3, which is around the same time where the creator of Mega Man kind of I guess, had his differences with them and left. I mean, yeah. So it started then, right? At first fans thought it was a small issue that okay, it's the difference between the creator and the company, but this is Marvel vs. Capcom 3. At this point, the last Marvel game in the series hadn't been seen since 10 years prior with MvC 2, which came out in 2000. So, when Marvel vs. Capcom 3 was being developed, everybody figured that Mega Man was going to come back, and he's a shoe-in. Why not? Him along with Ryu, and an argument could be made for Captain Commando, are the top three mascots of the company in general. In fact, if you want to look at it, Ryu is the representation for Capcom as a whole as far as the fighting games go, Mega Man as far as the platformers, and maybe even though he probably had one appearance in that one game, but because his name is Captain Commando, Capcom, they probably look at him as the mascot for the beat 'em ups. Even though you could probably make an argument for someone in Final Fight to have that title, since Final Fight is more known than the Captain Commando game. But I digress. So, because of that knowledge that people had, everybody thought he was going to be a shoo-in, but no, he wasn't. And when Ultimate MvC 3 was announced, people thought he was going to be a shoo-in for that as well, because A, what they didn't do the first time, they would probably recollect themselves and do it the second time around. I mean, they can't be this, they can't be this naive and ignore fan requests and whatnot. But yet again, he wasn't announced at all for Ultimate MvC 3. Not only that, but to add doubt into Capcom from fans, about a year later, when Street Fighter Cross Tekken finally came out, and they were finally doing an updated version for 2013 for the PS Vita and adding extra characters, there was going to be 4 Street Fighter characters and 4 Tekken characters with 2 additional characters to them. Now, who were these 2 additional characters? Well, it was the company mascots. So for Namco, you had Pac-Man and Mokujin. And for Capcom, well, beyond Ryu, who's the next best mascot for Capcom? That's Mega Man. However, this just cemented to the fans the fact that Capcom was bitter about Mega Man's creator having a beef with him and him going off to do their own thing. And this was basically shown full-fledged when the character reveal for Street Fighter Cross Tekken's extra 5th character for the Street Fighter side was bad box art Mega Man. Yes, this Mega Man was essentially the Mega Man that was on the cover for the first Mega Man game made way back in the early 80s as advertisement for the Nintendo system. And a lot of fans were just scratching their heads like, why would they do this? I mean, even though Pac-Man's in Mokujin, that is Pac-Man. That looks like Pac-Man, so that is Pac-Man. But for Mega Man, it just looks like a fat guy who's a beer belly that he doesn't work and watches TV all day, cosplaying as a bad representation of Mega Man mixed with a Power Ranger or something. Like, nobody understood why. And ever since then, Mega Man has just been going down and down and off the radars of Capcom, and a lot of the Mega Man fans kind of felt not disrespected, but betrayed. That something as small as a beef between them and the owner of the character could lead to them just like bashing and burying one of their most beloved IPs for a long time as well. I mean, you have to remember, Mega Man came out in the 80s, and he's had fans from then till now, and he has about, I could be wrong, but aside from the classic, he has about maybe 5 iterations, 5 different series, maybe even more. I'm not really sure off the top of my head, but yeah, so when he was announced for MvC Infinite, at that moment, it was like, I can't even describe the feeling. It was a sigh of relief, as well as excitement, as well as some faith restored. Like, Capcom is listening, they've learned from their mistakes, hopefully, and they're doing all they can to make this game special. And it shows not only that, but he was one of the first characters to be revealed. I mean, do you know how big that is in itself? That X, I don't want to put like words in Mega Man fans' mouth, but he might be out of the whole Mega Man fan base population, he might be the most favored out of all the versions possibly, and he gets to be in the new MvC game. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm sorry I went on the Mega Man tangent, but I just wanted to explain everything to the casual person that doesn't know anything about the situation as to why everybody's talking about X being in this game and why it's such a big deal. So yes, for Capcom it was Ryu again, Morgan, and Mega Man X. Now for Marvel it was Iron Man, Captain America, and Captain Marvel. Now, again, if you're new and you don't know what's going on, basically, in the past games of the series, Marvel, a lot of the characters were implemented due to assets that they already had from previous games prior to the Versus series, as well as popularity and fan demand. So you could say a lot, like back then, a lot of the choices were kind of fairer than what's going on now. And the reason why I say that is because if you don't know, the choices being dictated on the Marvel side on who's going to be in this game is going to be based off of promoting the Marvel Cinematic Universe and to a lesser extent the comics, and even then when it comes to the comics it's who they're trying to push. So by saying that, and if you know what the Marvel Cinematic Universe consists of, which is the movies, the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. television series, and the Netflix series, you could pretty much guess at least 95% of the roster just by using and naming out characters from there, and you probably get it right. However, there is a catch to this. I'm pretty sure over the years before Civil War, you've heard of Marvel trying to get certain character IPs as far as film rights go back from people that own some of their most popular characters, but there were other studios. For example, they wanted Spider-Man at the time, but when the Marvel Cinematic Universe started, Sony still had the rights to shoot films for that character. So because of that, Marvel couldn't use that character, because if they did, they would be basically breaching. I guess I'm not super hyped up on the knowledge on like contracts with movie studios, but I'm pretty sure since Marvel had the rights to use Spider-Man in films, if Marvel Studios, even though it's their character, were to make a Spider-Man film, while Sony still had the rights, that would be a breach of contract or breach of just it would just you just be breaking the rules. I guess I'm sorry I can't put it any other way like that, but breach of contract might be better as well. They'd be basically breaking. I guess breaking the rules at that point. So over time, not only was it a problem with them, but it was also a problem with Fox. Why? Because Fox makes the X-Men and Fantastic Four related character IPs. They use their characters for their films. Now, what this means is not only the X-Men and the Fantastic Four themselves, meaning the core members of those groups, but characters related to them. For example, Deadpool isn't really an X-Men character per se, but he's related to them enough that he could be thrown in with a title called X-Men IP because he's an X-Men related character, but he's not in the group. You know what I mean? Same thing with the Fantastic Four. Even though the Fantastic Four is the four of them, Silver Surfer, to a degree, might be considered a Fantastic Four character just because of his connection with Galactus and Galactus' connection to Fantastic Four. In fact, I could be absolutely wrong on this, so excuse me if I am, but I do think that Galactus debuted in a Fantastic Four comic. So, so even though they're not members of the Fantastic Four, they could be looked at as Fantastic Four as characters. So, now the reason I bring this up is to say this. Excuse me. Spider-Man was eventually worked out with Sony, and he was able to go to Marvel Studios as a working deal with Sony, and thus he was in Civil War. However, the same has been tried to be done with the Fox for the Fantastic Four and the X-Men. However, nothing on that front has come for a long time, and even then, just right now, they're starting to work together a little bit to produce the Legion series that's going to be on FX soon. But I'm pretty sure by the time they started working together just now, I mean, this game supposedly was in development since late 2013, early 2014, when the whole, okay, we won't promote any other characters on Fox thing was still going on. Now they might be a little bit lenient, but again, this game was starting development since way back when. So because of that, I want to assure you people, or at least warn you people, that there's a possibility that no X-Men or Fantastic Four characters will be in the base roster. So that means no Wolverine, no Storm, no Magneto, no Sentinel, no Doctor Doom. I say those because those are the characters that are used mainly in tournaments and are fan favorites because of that. But however, it was reported by some reliable leakers who leaked the game in the first place that they could be expanded upon and used in DLC. Now, with that said, so we have 6 characters so far when you look at it, right? On the Capcom side, again, I'm going to repeat this because I was rambling on and maybe you've forgotten. So, all the characters in total: Capcom, Ryu, Morrison, Mega Man X, Marvel, Iron Man, Captain Marvel, Captain America. Now, what I want to do right here is basically tell you guys who I would personally want within the roster, and then after that, depending on who I could think of off the top of my head, who I think would be interesting in it, maybe give a tidbit information on each of the characters, and then possibly if we don't have enough time, what I would then do if this video like gets good reviews or anything like that, what I would want to do after this video, if I ever do another one again, is maybe get a full roster, because right now I'm drawing blanks, but I know a few who I want in this game, and maybe more will develop as time goes on after this video is posted. So what I want to do is state the ones that I have on my mind right now, and then afterwards say why I think they would be good, and then once that's done, maybe give my final thoughts on this whole game and what I would expect to see from it. And maybe as the weeks go on leading up to the game's release, maybe add more characters who I think would be in the game, and then give a little backstory on those characters just so you could be familiar with them, so that in case they are in the game, you could already feel a sense of relatability with these characters instead of going in blind like, okay, I don't know who this is, why he's doing this, why is he with so-and-so, why this makes sense, and stuff like that. But before I go into the character section, I want to talk about what this game will be providing to the fans as far as single player content and all that. So let's see. From what I would guess, they would add arcade mode, right? They would add online play and stuff like that. But one of the things that was highlighted that I'm actually excited for is story mode. Now, story mode is a very, nowadays, thanks to everybody this is the funny thing too, everybody might want to thank Mortal Kombat for this, or should I say more specifically Mortal Kombat versus DC, which by the way the plot to that game is very similar to the plot to this game 10 years later. Funny, right? But even though people want to give credit to that particular game for starting the way video games are telling their story modes now, I would actually have to tip my hat to Tekken as well, because Tekken before Mortal Kombat vs. DC had story modes of their own, and they were different and unique to the way that Mortal Kombat and NetherRealm does theirs in general. But because Mortal Kombat has sold more and is probably more popular than Tekken for story mode specifically, because I don't know, maybe Tekken might be globally more popular than Mortal Kombat, but at least for story mode and presentation of story mode wise, Mortal Kombat put their version of it on the map, and thus, to me at least, every other fighting game company has been trying to tell their story mode, or at least the popular ones. Like nowadays, when you think of the big giant three of fighting games in the fighting game industry, you think of Street Fighter, Tekken, and Mortal Kombat. So at least for Tekken and Street Fighter and anything related to those two, if they have a story mode, they're going to try to tell like Mortal Kombat's, because their story modes are incredible and they've been received so well. And so far, if you count MK vs. DC and the 3 games following that, MK9, Injustice, and MKX, that's 4 games with flawless story modes that have proven themselves as being extremely viable in a fighting game. And not only that, but it develops the characters as well instead of just having arcade endings, and it's a good cinematic experience. It's like watching a movie and in between playing out the scenes in a movie by fighting. So, with that being said, I mean, everybody else has done it. I mean, even Street Fighter finally has a story mode of its own in Street Fighter 5. Now, depending on if it's good or not, or if it's lackluster or sucks, or you think it was okay, that's all in your opinion. But the fact that they attempted it shows that, they realized that story mode could work as well. And I'm excited because the fact that it's being done for Marvel vs. Capcom, which is a series that, first of all, I never would have thought that another Marvel vs. Capcom would come out in the next 5 years after the last one, let alone the story mode. So to me, that's already hyping me up for the game even more. But some fans as well are having doubts in this. And you're probably wondering why. Well, they promised the same exact thing for Marvel vs. Capcom 3, where there was supposed to be a story mode explaining, following the events of MvC 2 and all that. That was all promised as well back then, and I'm pretty sure if you play the game now and you see, where is the story mode? So, yeah, okay, basically that never happened. It was promised. If there is an explanation somewhere, I didn't read about it, and I'm probably not gonna look now. But I mean, you could probably try and find one if you want. But for whatever reason, one reason or another, it wasn't done. It was promised and it wasn't done. So this time I think with the mistakes, or not even mistakes, but for the things that they thought were good but ended up turning out to be bad for Street Fighter 5, they don't want to repeat. So seeing as how a lot of people kind of had mixed emotions about the Street Fighter 5 story mode, this time, especially now that they're working hand in hand with Marvel on this game, it's not like Marvel just giving them the IP and saying, okay, good luck. Like, they're actually working with Marvel, the video game company, at least their video game company part of it. They're working together. So, that means for this story mode, I think I heard some Marvel comic writers would be writing it. Me, if I had it my way, I'd probably get Ron Mars or Jim Starlin, but that's too much to ask for. So, yeah. So they're writing the story mode, which means it's going to be a good story mode. At least I hope so, because I mean, these are being written by Marvel writers, people that their jobs are to write great and compelling stories with characters that are just out of this world. So, at least they bring a lot more to the table than if a Capcom writer were to write it. I'm not saying Capcom writes bad stories or anything like that, but these are professional story writers who write stories that tell like incredible tales. You know what I mean? Like Marvel, DC, these guys write stories for a living. That's their job. So I mean, I guess if what I'm trying to say is that their story will possibly be 10 times better than Street Fighter V's, then I guess that's what I'm saying. But anyway, that's how I feel. But yeah, that's what they're doing with that. So hopefully that would be good story mode. They are including that. What else are they including? I'm trying to think. There's a new tag system. Not okay. I'll say tag system slash assist system. They're not bringing assists back from the older games that started with Marvel Superheroes vs. Street Fighter. Instead, what they're doing is they're adding the switch system, but I would describe it more so as the Street Fighter Cross Tekken system, where you hit low, medium, high, high again, and then when your opponent gets knocked into the air, your other opponent comes in and takes over and continues the combo from there. Like, they're using that Street Fighter Cross Tekken switch system. I'm assuming they're gonna have the old-fashioned switch system where you tag out your partner comes in with a flying attack, knocking your opponent out in order for your other opponent to come in and pose and then go right into fighting like they usually do in the Versus series. But I think that the Cross Tekken switching style is going to be there just so that they could diversify the assist, so that way, again, like how in Marvel Superheroes, I guess, where the people that you put on your team, that really mattered who you had on your team to kind of like work it out. I mean, what I mean by work it out, like, man, let me start that over again, okay? Because I don't know what I was thinking there, but alright, put it this way. Who you have on your team now is going to matter a lot. as opposed to just picking your favorites. Like, you're gonna want to see who does what, who has better combos. Okay, does this character, is he a rushdown character? Is this guy a keep away character and whatnot? Because now that you have to switch in and out, it puts a lot more emphasis on the actual tag mode, which is also why they're going with 2v2 this time instead of the regular 3v3 you see in the previous games. You know, they wanted us to make it feel like a real team effort experience, because one of the things that they explained was back in part 2 and 3, what you normally did was, okay, pick a character who you're good to go and rush down with, or who you thought was viable to just like do infinite combos, right? Your second character might be your backup character, and your third character would be assist, like a straight assist character only. Like, you wouldn't even think about playing him. He's strictly there for the assist. And that's not really, at least in their opinion, that wasn't how they thought that a team mechanic based fighting game should work. I mean, when you compose a team, you would hope that every single member of that team gets some action one way or another, as opposed to just being used for this one thing. You know what I mean? Like, for example, a popular team back then was Magneto, Sentinel, Storm, right? So, let's say Magneto was your point character, Storm was your secondary, and a Sentinel was your assist. You know, the only reason, I mean, even though Sentinel is very viable on his own accord, people mainly used him for his Sentinel missiles just as an assist to keep opponents away and have Magneto and Storm do most of the work. Well, I guess the directors and developers and Marvel and Capcom saw this and they said, well, nah, you know, we want this to be a team experience game. And by that, they mean they want you to use both your characters to make it feel like an actual team-based fighting game, not just, okay, this is my fighter, that's my second fighter, that's an assist, and, you know, whatever. No, this is going to be meant to use both of your characters. So assists are gone. The cross-stick and switch style is in, as well as bringing back 2v2, which means 2 versus 2 instead of 3 versus 3, and finally the Infinity Gem system, which is going to be all 6. Yes, I'm calling them Infinity Gems, even though this is heavily based on the Marvel Cinematic Universe and in the universe of the films, they're known as stones, but no. Okay, to me, they will always be known as gems, and that's what I'm sticking to. So yeah, the Infinity Gems will be in this game and play a huge role, as they will be a big part of this game's base core system. What I mean by that is essentially what they're going to do with the gems. First of all, if you ever play Marvel Superheroes, in that game you were able to essentially use the gems in the way that if you fought against an opponent, right? If you did a special move, for example, if you were Spider-Man, if you did a spider sting or if you did a web ball on a character, if that attack hit, an Infinity Gem will fly off of the character and land on the ground in order for you to get or for him to regain what he lost, right? Once you got the Infinity Gem, it would be stored at the bottom of your screen. If you're player 1, the bottom left, player 2, bottom right. It will be stored there, and you would be able to use that gem in the fight in order to help you against the opponent. For example, if you had a soul gem, that would replenish your health bar. If you had reality, that would give you extra projectiles to throw at the opponent while you attack the user normals. If you had the mind gem, I think that allowed you to rejuvenate your super meter. If you had space, that increased your defense. If you had time, that increased your speed. If you had power, that increased your strength. So, you know, a lot of that stuff, basically. Now, what they're going to do in this game, which is drastically different from that, is they said that they're going to use each of the 6 Infinity Gems and have each gem be its own fighting system and basically treat the gems like grooves in Capcom vs. SNK 2. Where in that game you had 6 grooves. You had the C groove, which was like Street Fighter Alpha, A groove, which is like the Street Fighter Alpha 3 Vism, which is custom combo. Then you had P groove, which is a combination of Super 2 Turbo and Third Strike, which is the one bar, but with heavy damaging power and parry. Then you had the S groove, which was based off King of Fighters 94. Then you had the N groove, which is based off King of Fighters 98 stock system 97, and the K groove, which was a combination of Samurai Showdown and Garu Mark of the Wolves. So they all fought differently. So I'm thinking that's what they're gonna do here. Is you're gonna pick a gem, and those gems are probably, in my opinion, gonna react the same way they did in Marvel Superheroes, because that's what it shows anyway. Just because, like in Marvel Superheroes, the Power Gem gave you extra strength. Now you watch the Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite trailer, and when Ryu activates said gem, or in their case, stone, you can see that his strength not only increased, but he was able to do wall bounces off of just a light kick alone. And just, not a wall bounce, but he was able to bounce the character off the ground. And I guess that really displayed the strength that he had, that his strength had increased from just his regular normal attacks to now every single attack button is pretty much the equivalent to a heavy attack. And then when Captain Marvel, activated the time gem, similar to how in Marvel Superheroes your speed would increase, well, what happened with her? Her speed increased and she was basically attacking as if she was in the custom combo state from the Alpha series. So I would think that each of these gems will work in the same exact way. And what they said was, what's going to happen is you're going to pick your two characters, then you're going to pick your stone, and then you'll proceed to fight, whether it's against a person at a tournament, online mode, or arcade mode. So essentially, to put all that and make all that whole explanation I gave you into one short sentence, in my opinion, after observing all of that, Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite's gameplay is a combination of the following four fighting systems, or gameplay systems, which is X-Men vs. Street Fighter for the 2v2, Street Fighter Cross Tekken for the Cross Tekken switching style that you can do to continue a combo after your partner recently started one, Capcom vs. SNK 2 with the 6 groove systems, but this time being the gems being in place of the groove systems, and finally Marvel Superheroes just for the inclusion of the Infinity Gems themselves. So those 4 games combined into one, and you basically get Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite based off what they told us so far. And for what we've seen, that's what it looks like. Those 4 games, core fighting systems combined into one. So, with that being said, since we know about all that, I guess one information I did leave out was that for the story mode, 2 characters that would have a heavy focus in the story would be Mega Man X and Captain Marvel. Like those 2 characters are going to play very important roles to the story. And in fact, at the end of the reveal trailer for Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, you do get a glimpse after the release date is shown, or I think it's after the title has been shown, and then it's before the release date's been shown. But in between those 2 things being shown, you see someone on a throne sitting down, and the first image you see is their eyes lighting up red. Now, when I first saw this, and I picked out the design of what the head shape was, and the designs on the sides of its head, and the way its eyes glue red, I looked at it and said, okay, that's Ultron. Alright. But even before the blue eyes were revealed on the chest, I did notice, like, okay, that's Ultron, but he has a lot of stuff on him that doesn't seem like his regular attire, because if anything, Ultron's just a big silver metal suit that I think is made out of adamantium, and that's it. He's just like a naked adamantium steel colored body. But yet, if you look at the trailer, you look at the picture of the person sitting on the throne, it looks like Ultron, but with a cape and shoulder pads, and his arms look bigger than usual. And then when the blue eyes show up, at first I didn't know who this was, because I didn't have Mega Man X on my mind. I mean, I did because of his character reveal, but I didn't think anything Mega Man X related. But when his blue eyes were shown, I then looked at it and thought, okay, this looks like it could be Sigma. And in fact, if you freeze frame that picture, copy it, and then put it in Photoshop or something, or whatever program you can in order to lighten the picture up more, you will see that there are details of Sigma all on Ultron as far as like the cape. You could tell in detail. You could also tell if when the pictures like lit up more that he's wearing his shoulder pads and that his wrists have the spikes that Sigma wears. And I've also heard rumors that if that is Sigma, most of his design will be from the first Mega Man X, the one that had the lightsaber. So that design will be used, I guess. Again, as far as Mega Man X goes, I'm very seldom on my knowledge. I'm more knowledgeable about the classics, since that's the one I played more as a kid the most. But from what I've been hearing from the rumors, the reason why that was chosen is because Mega Man X1 Sigma, as far as design goes, is the most iconic one. I guess so. Anyway, yeah, you know, that seems to be the boss. Some people are saying it's a, fusion. Some saying it's Ultron infected by the Sigma virus. Some saying it's Ultron that hacked into Sigma and forcing him into a fusion. So, whatever it is, it looks like to be a fusion of those two. So, yeah. So I guess we got all that out the way, gameplay and what story mode probably would be about and what characters are announced so far. And so far I'm trying to let this be only an hour. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to announce characters I would like to see in this game. Now, I'm well aware that maybe half of the characters that I'm going to say probably will not be in the game, just because if we want to be realistic, at least for the Marvel side, again, this is all based primarily off of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and whoever is top dollar in the comics. At least, in my opinion, I mean, it was already announced that, and they've already expressed that, but I don't know. I still would like to think that they throw in some oddballs in there, because if anything, when it comes to the Marvel vs. Capcom series, there's always been an oddball character for each side. For example, Shumagorov, did you know him before him being in the Marvel series made by Capcom, or Blackheart before the Ghost Rider movie? You would have never knew who Blackheart even was if you didn't play the Marvel games. If you went to watch the Ghost Rider movie, you would have just thought, who the hell is this? But then again, that's not saying much since they didn't really do him that much justice in that movie, so... Anyhow, yeah, so, I mean, let's just go ahead and say the characters before we run out of any time. One character that I really want in this game back as a villain, and he's from the Street Fighter series, and that is MvC. Or, if you're in the eastern side of the world, you'll know him as Vega. The reason why I think he'd be cool to come back is because he hasn't been back in a while. He was looked at as far as comparative wise, and even if they do develop a story, he was looked at as far as advertising at least as the counterpart and the rival to Magneto, who is one of the biggest, most used characters throughout the Marvel series history. I mean, he was very good in Marvel superheroes, X-Men vs. Street Fighter, Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and 3. So, if Magneto, for example, makes it in as DLC, which he probably is, who else to pair him against than the Street Fighter equivalent to Magneto, which is MvC? Not only that, but he, in my opinion, if he is not one of the most iconic Capcom villains, I would go up there and say that he is the most iconic Capcom villain in all of Capcom's history, simply because I'm probably going to get a lot of flack for this, even though I know Mega Man brought notoriety to Capcom in the 80s, but once Street Fighter 2 hit, that really put Capcom into a huge light, maybe even bigger than what Mega Man did. And if there's anything that anybody remembers from Street Fighter 2, it is the difficulty in fighting the boss of that game, which was MvC. I mean, that guy was just a quarter eater. Like, he could do 2 scissor kicks, stun you, do a heavy kick into a heavy Psycho Crusher, and you would be done with him. 7 seconds in a fight. Not even kidding. Go back and play the original World Warrior game. Get to him, Bison, and tell me how many times it took for you to beat him. Because, man, that guy was crazy. And not only that, but just as a character, like, the way he's presented, his personality, his goals, what he wants, he seems like a natural villain that couldn't exist in the Marvel Universe anyway. I mean, he's a dictator, which, I mean, come on. Like, and Bison would be a perfect villain for Captain America simply because he deals with villains like this. A dictator who thinks he knows what's best for the world, who wants to remake the world in his image, and will stop at nothing to get it done. You know, so I mean, and Bison, come on. To me, I think it would be nice for him to come back and give Akuma a rest for a while, simply because Akuma is not only Street Fighter 5, but now he's going to be in Tekken 7, and to have him in this game as well, it's just going to be too much Akuma. It's going to be overwhelming, and I think it's going to actually make people dislike the character even more because he's going to be around almost everywhere you turn at one point that people are just going to get tired of seeing him. Just like if you're a wrestling fan, similar like how John Cena, like, you know how John Cena has been champion and has been the face of that company and has been getting the most push for like 10 years to the point where in the beginning it was cool, everybody cheered for him, but now people just want to see him fail, and I mean, to a lesser extent, people just want to see him quit and just leave wrestling for good. You know, I think that's what's going to end up happening to Akuma if he's just everywhere all the goddamn time. So, when you look at characters as far as villain or anti-heroes, I mean, if you're not going to use Akuma, who's the next best thing? You know, I mean, you could make an argument for Gil, but that's only for. I think that's only an argument that hardcore Street Fighter fans can make. And even though Juri is a popular pick as well, she's still fairly new in that she's only been in 2 Street Fighter games, and I think she needs a couple of more games and years under her belt in order to be ranked in the same league as Bison. So the next choice is Bison. You know, so yeah, let's bring in Bison back. And maybe in one of the few coming weeks, I'll go into more detail about his character to get you to guys up to speed on him, on who he is as a character and everything. So, you know, we'll cover that. Alright, so it looks like we only have 13 more minutes. So I'll go ahead and throw a Marvel character in there. A Marvel character who I really want to see in this game is Carnage. Yes, Carnage from Spider-Man. So the reason why I want to see him is because everybody's clamoring for Venom. But the thing is, knowing Marvel, if they go off, because Marvel is the one that's going to be more strict about their picks than Capcom are, because they have a lot more to, you know, ride on as far as picks. Like, they have a lot more to promote. They're in the movie industry now, besides just comics. And not only that, but they also have Disney down their necks as well. So it might not just be Marvel, it might be Disney that might be having an influence on these picks. And if they decide to go with a Spider-Man villain with a symbiote, like for example, everybody wants Eddie Brock, but the thing is, Eddie Brock isn't Venom anymore. He's Carnage right now in the comics, from what I'm understanding. And if Marvel is going with the current, with the now, then if they're asking for Eddie Brock, or if they're asking for Venom, who I think is, I don't even know who the host for Venom is anymore, but they're either going to get that host for Venom, or they're going to get Toxin with Venom's move list. And I don't think anybody, especially with how picky fighting game fans are, they're probably not going to like it. So instead of just hoping for a character that you want in really badly, which Capcom might do, they might just bring Eddie Brock back in the Venom symbiote just for the fans. But if I want to play it safe and go about this in the way of how Marvel would think, but at the same time giving them a symbiote, I would pick Carnage simply because the Carnage symbiote has been more consistent as far as owning one owner. I still think Cassidy is still the owner and host to the Carnage symbiote at this point as we speak. I'm not sure. I haven't been following the comics like that as of recently, but if he is, then not only is he more consistent, but to me, he's one of the more cooler Spider-Man villains. I mean, he is basically, if you took Venom and you took Joker and you combine them together, and that's what you get with Carnage. You know, he's sadistic, he is very dangerous, he's stronger than both Venom and Spider-Man combined. Also, a plus in the fact that with his symbiote, he could actually create weapons, whether they be sharp, blunt, even though since he since the owner of the host is a psychopathic killer, it's going to be sharp blades most of the time. So I don't know. It'd be cool. I could see him playing as a combination of Jetta from Darkstalkers and maybe 12 from Third Strike, but with MvC system added into that. So air combos, air blocks, push blocks, all that stuff. There's just a lot of possibilities that I think you could do with that character. Maybe they might have to neuter his personality down just because it's going to be most likely a T-rated game. And since Carnage is a very violent character in nature and in concept, I mean, I think they can still pull it off, but I could see them dumbing down his character a little bit since this game will have a story mode. If he's in the story mode at all, in any shape or form, he probably might not be as violent as he is in the comics. So, you know. So yeah, that's just another character I think that would be interesting. Now, back to the Capcom side. The Capcom side, I actually want a character from Power Stone. Now, first of all, if you do, for some reason, remember Power Stone, and you happen to remember what that game was all about, which was collecting power magical stones that grant you extraordinary powers whenever gathered together. Well, when you think about it, when Thanos was first questing for the Infinity Gauntlet, the object of the Infinity Gems to collect them was for the same purpose, to gain incredibly unimaginated power, And since this game has Infinity Gems, what other Capcom series is more experienced and more seasoned to collecting colorful, powerful gems/stones than the Power Stone characters? Now, for me, the Power Stone character that I would want back is, well, not back because they've never been in the series, but one that I like to see implemented is Ayame, the Ninja Girl. And the reason why is because, I don't know, I've sort of I've sort of garnered a liking to her as of recently, after rewatching the anime series and seeing how fun she was as a character and how funny she was, and her relationship with Falcon. Not only that, but in my opinion, because the first two games didn't have that much of a cohesive story to begin with, they were more there for the party aspect of it. The anime is probably the closest thing we have to somewhat of a lore for Power Stone and its characters. And if we go by the anime, the four most popular characters, or I guess you could say the four main protagonists of that series was Falcon, Rouge, Ryoma, and Ayame. So one of them is gonna get in. It's probably gonna be Falcon if we're gonna be very, very serious about it, because he is he is the Ryu to Power Stone. You know what I mean? So it's probably gonna be him. And even though I probably would be okay with that too, just because Power Stone is getting a rep, if they were to add a second Power Stone character, then I think the other three, Ryoma, Rouge, and Ayami, they're all fair game, but I would want Ayami there just because I like that they're dynamic in the anime, and I would like to see that play out in this game, especially in story mode. That would be fun to see that relived again nowadays. And I just think from a gameplay perspective, she might be cool. I mean, her super form is like a pink bunny/ninja, and she throws shurikens, and I think it'd be cool to have another ninja in the game besides Strider all the time, even though I love Strider too. But the reason why I say besides Strider is because the fan demand for him is so high, and he's been in all three Marvel games. So he's probably going to be in this one too, so that's why I say another. So, yeah, I would think it'd be very cool if she came into the game, and yeah, basically that's pretty much it. I really want to see her. Now, another Marvel character, I'm trying to get in as many as I can before time runs out. Another Marvel character, who would I want to see? Another Marvel character that I'm trying to think of right now. Let me see. I'm trying to remember because I did have a few picked out specifically, and I'm trying to think, but it's just not coming to me at the moment. You know what? Screw it. I would like to see Adam Warlock. Just whatever, yeah. But like that, he just came into my mind right now, so I'm saying him, and he actually makes a lot of sense too, because this inclusion and this request is kind of tricky to kind of decipher if he has a shoe in or if he's just completely out and he'll never get in. And the reason why I say it's tricky is because this game has Infinity Gems in it. So because there's Infinity Gems in it, it's Infinity Gem related. Thanos is probably going to be in this game, especially seeing as he's going to be the big bad for Infinity War, and for the fact that, you know, in the game, probably Ultron slash Sigma, the fusion, or we'll call him Sigtron, is probably going to get all these gems together and make a Infinity Gauntlet himself. And the reason why I said all that is to say this. Back in the original Infinity Gauntlet storyline, which a lot of this seems to be taking inspiration from, in that story, one of the three main characters who I consider to be a part of that story was Thanos, Silver Surfer, and Adam Warlock. And the reason why I say that is because Adam Warlock was one of the main characters in that story who acted like a mentor to the Marvel heroes. You know, like he actually tried to help and guide them into trying to defeat Thanos. And even then, saying guide might be the wrong kind of word, because I think at that time, when all of it was going down and he got whatever heroes he could find in the universe left to come together to fight Thanos, because previous to him trying to gather as much heroes as he can to fight Thanos, previous to that, Thanos at one point with the Infinity Gauntlet on and the power of the Gauntlet, all he did was snapped his fingers and half of the universe was dead. So half of the superheroes that Adam Warlock could have gotten along with his original cast that he got together, half of them were dead. So what little superheroes he got together, he figured he could use them as a distraction to fight Thanos in order for the Cosmic Abstracts to get their shit together and come together and fight him. So, I mean, even though it was kind of a setup, he still acted as a guide and genuinely, truly wanted to help the heroes fight Thanos. And he played a big part in that story, just because if anything else, I think at the end of that story, he ended up with the gauntlet anyway. Like, no, I mean, like, he really ended up with the gauntlet in his hands. I think. I could be wrong. Again, correct me. It's been a while since I read that 6-issue story, so. But yeah, he played a very big, important role, and in all the Infinity stories since, like Infinity War and Infinity Crusade, like, he was involved. So, based off that alone, I would think that if he, well, okay, based off that and one other thing I forgot, and that's that in Guardian of the Galaxies Volume 2, the film that everybody's hyping up and that's coming soon this year, there was a rumor that he might be in that film. To what capacity, I do not know. But if that's the case, then that means he's fair game, because he would be considered part of the MCU. Now, depending on the role that he'll play in that film, might sway his chances as well. If it's a small cameo role, or if it's just like a one scene to guide them to whatever that is they have to do, or warn them of Thanos is coming, like his coming and stuff like that, then yeah, he might not. But if it's a big important role and he's like shown throughout the film, then maybe he has a decent chance. But yeah, so all that together, he was in Infinity Gauntlet, he was in all the Infinity stories, and plus he might be rumored for the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 film. I think he might have a decent chance of getting in. And if he's not in as a character, I think I would also be fine as him being a NPC, which is a non-playable character in the story mode. You know, like him just being there to warn the Marvel heroes of what's happening, what's coming, that the Infinity Gems have been activated again, or they're in play and tearing the universe apart again. And I think it'd be cool to see him guide the Marvel heroes like he did in the Infinity Gauntlet against all three of, you know, because Marvel characters and Capcom characters are supposed to fight each other first before they team up. So it'd be cool to see him guide them into fighting the Capcom characters, Sigtron, which is the official name I'm going to give the Ultron and Sigma fusion, Sigtron, and even Thanos himself at one point in the story, if it comes to that. So that would be another character who I would like. Alright guys, it's about almost 2 more minutes until an hour, which is what I basically wanted this to kind of go up to. So that was 4 characters that I named off the top of my head. Depending on how this goes and the reaction it gets, I might do another one. And if I don't do another one, I'll probably just do like a quick video update about the 4 characters I talked about so far right here, which was in Bison, Carnage, Ayame, and Adam Warlock. I might do history videos so you guys can get caught up on those characters. So, you know, but yeah, we'll first see how this goes. You know, again, if anything on this video sounded kind of awkward or out of place, or if like my voice was coming in and out at certain points. First of all, I just want to say I'm not doing this on the mic. I'm doing this by speaking directly to the laptop into Audacity. So, this is my first time trying anything like this. So, yeah, just bear with me. Hopefully you guys tolerated my voice enough to have listened the whole way through. And, yeah, we'll end it right here. And, I guess that's it for this episode. Or I won't say episode, for this video. And yeah, guys. So yeah, I hope that you guys had a good time. I hope this was more one of the better parts of your day. If you had a bad one, if not, and if you had a good one, I hope this just added more to that day. And yeah, expect me to be doing a lot of talking about any upcoming information about Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. Although there was a leak list that leaked for New Year's, but because it was already debunked as fake, I decided not to talk about it, even though I originally was going to. But since it was proven fake by a reliable leaker named Rice, I'm not even going to go into it. Maybe I might if people want me to, but beyond that, yeah, guys. So, yep, this is the video. This is the end. Hope you guys enjoyed. Yeah, this is CJ Kid 123. I hope that everyone has a good day. If not, I hope you have a good night. And we will speak again next time. Alright, guys. See ya.